Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on preparing children for going back to school in COVID times, which is part of our BVI Mental Health and Psychosocial Support Webinar Series. This webinar series is part of a project between the Pan American Health Organization and the government of the British Virgin Islands, financed by the Caribbean Development Bank, to provide mental health and psychosocial support in disaster management and also build individual and community resilience. My name is Amy Tausch. I work at the Pan American Health Organization, and I am also the project coordinator for the project that I just mentioned. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to our two presenters, Mrs. Brenda Foy and Ms. Mara Dean. Mrs. Brenda Foy is a school psychologist for the Department of Community Mental Health and Substance Use Services for the BVI Health Services Authority. And Ms. Mara Dean is an occupational therapist assistant, also at the Department of Community Mental Health and Substance Use Services with the BVI Health Services Authority. Before I hand it over to Ms. Foy to start the presentation, I wanted to let you know that as soon as the webinar is over, you will automatically receive a very brief survey to evaluate the quality of this webinar. It's only 10 questions. It will only take a few minutes, and we would greatly appreciate your helping us to better this webinar series by giving us your feedback. So without further ado, Mrs. Foy.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks, Amy, for your question. Again, you'll be hearing from me, Brenda Foy. I'm a school psychologist. And right after me, Mr. Dean would follow. We are sharing information on preparing children for going back to school during the time. Okay. So today we hope to have you consider ways to help children, whether at home or at to give you tips on reducing anxiety in children and also in your to reinforce a sense of control for children so they will come back to school. As adults in the community, we have a collective assignment really. When schools are open, we have to ensure that some things are happening, that the school buildings are ventilated and that the ventilation systems are working, that there is a capacity for social distancing, and that there are supplies available to prevent the spread of the disease. So we want to share with our children while they're at home and prepare them so that when they return to school, it will be a safe environment. Once the government provides the plan for them to return safely, it's our duties then as parents, to share the plan with the children. And then when the children get back to school, we should expect, not only to provide academic services, but social, emotional, mental, and behavioral health services to them so that they can be successful in school. So presently, let's look at we are in a partial lockdown here in Tortola, in the BVI really. Persons are in quarantine, persons are in isolation. We are in a curfew state, so we have to stay at home. There are closures where businesses are closed, schools are closed, and there's a lot of other stuff going on that is causing some anxiety. Just today, we heard of something that happened here, but so there's things happening where we all might be feeling a sense of anxiety. We have to have a sense of control. So we have to have ways of controlling, how we controlling our emotions really. And we have to be able to reassure ourselves first, stay grounded, and then reassure our children that they're okay and that the situation will get better. We want to make sure that we provide a safe environment for our children so that they can feel safe and acknowledge how they're feeling. Sometimes they may be feeling angry, sometimes they're frustrated, with the online schooling. Sometimes the internet is not working as we would hope to. We have malfunctions with our computers or with our tablets. And so, there could be many ways of persons having frustrated times, whether it's the children or the parents. But it's very important, though, that as adults, we react to stressful situations with some calm. We have to be problem solvers. We have to be flexible. Flexibility is going to come in various ways, not only in helping children navigate on online schooling, but also to prepare them that, I know the government is planning on revising and looking at the situation every 2 weeks to see when it's really safe to return back to school. So we have to prepare children to be flexible, to be able to move back into school as soon as the government gives the okay. And of course, we have to remind them that it will be safe. And we also have to check to make sure that all of the safety precautions are being done. We also have to show a sense of compassion. When we hear of persons who have contracted the COVID-19, we have to show compassion, we have to show care, and we have to model behavior for our children, because whatever we model for them, they will acknowledge and act out the same way we act. We have to really acknowledge that we have some concerns about the spread of COVID-19. Right now we have it spread in various pockets of the country, and so there is some fear. There is some anxiety, but we don't have to panic. We have to stay calm and find ways of reducing fear and anxiety in ourselves and in our children. So we have to teach children to some positive preventative measures. For example, we have to, as we use our hand sanitizers and disinfectants and so on, we have to keep them out of the reach of our children, especially if we have a couple of children in the home. Little ones may be running around. Parents are trying to help children navigate through the school day on online schooling. And so we have to ensure that whatever chemicals or sanitizers or whatever we have, they're up high so that children can't get to them and cause some problems for themselves. So we also have to talk to children about we have to talk to them to find out how they are feeling. And if they're fearful, we can't just dismiss how they're feeling. We have to acknowledge it and let them know, okay, John, I know that you're telling me that you're feeling afraid right now, but it's okay. And you can show him, the steps and the things that you're doing, all the that you're taking to keep him safe and to keep yourself safe. So helping children, though, to reduce the anxiety and fears, we can show them how to, hand sanitize appropriately, washing hands, frequently throughout the day. We can stay calm, listen to them, and offer reassurance. So we then have to be role models for our children. We have to be aware of how we talk about COVID-19 as well. Oftentimes you're at home, you're on the internet, or you are on WhatsApp or whatever, having conversations with other persons, maybe overseas, who are having a hard time with the disease. And children might hear the fears and the concerns in your voice. And so we have to be careful, even watching the news continuously, So we have to keep these things into consideration when children are around, because they may not quite understand what we're talking about, and they would, fill in the gaps where they don't understand with what they interpret or what they perception is, and which might be misinformation. So we have to explain to children, why we're following the guidelines that we're following. Children often ask, well, why aren't they allowed to go and play with their friends? Well, we have to tell them that we're following the guidelines of the health experts. and the Ministry of Health, is putting out information, so we have to follow them just like they have rules in school. We have rules in the community and rules to prevent spread and to control the disease. And they might wonder, okay, so why is it away from others? We have to explain to them that there is a risk of contracting COVID-19, and we have to stay away from others until it's under control. So during these times, then, children will be asking questions, you will be listening, there will be a lot of things you're doing. You're trying to manage home, you're trying to manage online schooling, you're trying to manage working from home. And sometimes it could be very frustrating, and you can get angry, and you need to relax. So one way of relaxing your nervous system is by using breathing techniques. And there are different types. And today I want to share with you this one called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. And you can do this with me now as I walk through it. Okay, sit quietly, relax, close your eyes, place the tip of your tongue against the ridge of the roof of your mouth, just behind your top front teeth. So place your tongue behind your top front teeth. Your tongue should remain in this position throughout the exercise. So what I want you to do is exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound like this. Then close your mouth and inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Then hold it for a count of 7, and then exhale through your mouth, making a whooshing sound to a count of 8. So you're keeping your tongue to the roof of your mouth again while exhaling. Okay, and you repeat that about 3 times. Now, this would help calm yourself, and once you learn how to do it, practice it, you can also share it with your children so that they can remain calm and be able to relax when frustrated times come around, okay? So what we want to do also is to help our children focus on the positive. So often we have negative thinking, and children entertain negative thinking, especially if they were bullied a lot in school. I'm finding that a lot of children who have been bullied and who find work difficult, the curriculum is kind of difficult for them, they are having a lot of negative thinking. And so we have to not only listen to them and hear what their concerns are, but also recognize when they're having problems in school, especially online, while they're online. Of course, when they go to school, you have to be concerned as well. But we have to help them focus on positive thinking, positive thoughts, okay? This is a time where we are in lockdown, partial lockdown. This is a time where we can enjoy moments with our family. So we need to make it as fun as possible, where you are maybe playing board games, watching some funny items on TV, talking about life, maybe cooking or baking something, using a recipe, So there are various things you can do to spend more fun, quality time with your family. While children are at home, we have to establish and maintain a daily routine. So, have the schedule from the time they wake up until the time they go to sleep. So you're going to include wake up time, bedtime, and what they're going to be doing throughout the day. They go online at 9 o'clock for schooling, and all the little things that they do, get up, brush teeth, eat breakfast, get dressed, put on the uniform, and get ready to be at the computer at their workstation for 9 o'clock. And then whatever other breaks that they're taking should be listed on that schedule. And you can post the schedule somewhere in the home where they can post where they work, their is. Okay, so what this would do is to give them a sense of control. Children like to know that they have some type of control over their life. It gives them predictability, and it helps them to stay calm, and it also ensures well-being for them. Okay, so establishing and maintaining that routine is very important. You can also identify projects that might help others. In times like this where there's so much turmoil in life, we reaching out and helping others gives us some gratification as adults, and it does for children too. So they can write letters to neighbors who might be on quarantine. They can maybe send positive message over social media to their friends, to family members. The old children can read a book to the younger children, or even go on social media and read to younger children, okay? So while children are at home doing online schooling, they need a lot of love and affection. So make sure that you are giving them attention, love, and affection. Remember, watching TV, viewing TV at a minimum, because children become fearful and anxiety increases when they're continuously watching the news. It's so sad and disruptive and very violent at times. Even the language that persons are using on TV is not appropriate for them. And so even scheduling when you watch TV and when they're watching TV is important, okay? As you talk to them and you hear that they have inaccurate information, you need to dispel the rumors and share factual information about the disease. Talk about the disease, talk about the factual information available, okay? So in talking, be honest and accurate, correct misinformation, so you have to listen very carefully to them. Explain simple safety tips to them, you know, when they cough, a sneeze in their elbow, and show them, you know, demonstrate to them how you are doing. So while you're with them, you're modeling behavior for them continuously. And it's important to stay up to date. You know, we have news coming over all the time on 780 and the other radio stations. There is a government website that we can go to and get information. We have to stay connected to information, and sometimes it's overpowering, so we have to choose what we listen to and when we listen to the news and so on. Okay, so another thing we have to do is stay connected to school. So while we are doing online schooling, we have to first need to understand what learning resources are out there, and get information. They have to identify additional resources. You know, sometimes we have 2 or 3 children at home, and there's only 1 tablet. So it's really important that we reach out to the school and see what additional resources, might be a laptop they can provide for you, a tablet. It's important to stay in touch with your school, with the teachers, connect with the staff, whether there's guidance counselors, assistant principals, get relevant information from them. If you have concerns about how your children are coping and keeping up with assignments and activities, it's important to actually contact the school. Okay, here, sorry. Here is a slide where we have to understand symptoms. COVID-19, it's really important that we share the symptoms with our children, and let them understand that there are symptoms that we can have sometimes, and then some that you have that are common all the time. So the common symptoms are cough and temperature, high temperature. But sometimes persons might have aches and pains, others might have fatigue, others might have headache, others runny nose, stuffy nose, shortness of breath, sore throat, and death. Thank goodness we've only 1 death so far, 1 too many, but we have been staying safe, so we have to share information with the children, let them know, you know, what to look for and how to remain safe. Okay, so we need to keep our explanations age appropriate. With elementary children, we want to just remind them that if they get sick, you're here to tell them. For the upper elementary elementary school children, junior high, they might ask you questions. Are we really safe? You know, what will happen if the COVID-19 spreads in our area? You be honest with them and let them know, you know, the precautions you are taking, the things that are set up to take care of them and to take care of you. And high school children, you want to engage them in decision-making, family plans, scheduling, and helping with chores at home. So while you're home, you also want to share with children how to avoid infection or spreading of the virus. You want to wash their hands regularly with soap and water and tell them when they go back to school. They don't have to be fearful of going back to school because soap and water will be provided for them as well. They must sing the Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star or the birthday song while washing their hands. They can avoid touching their eyes, nose, and mouth. They need to cover their mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing. And compliment them when they use tissue and dispose of it immediately, appropriately. When they're practicing social distancing, you compliment them on that too. Show them how to clean and frequently touch objects like, you know, the doorknob, light switches, and so on. And encourage them that staying at home is okay. It's only absolutely necessary to go out is when we go out, right? And that's how they will avoid infection or spreading of the virus. So in essence, then we're encouraging them to foster a sense of control. We also want to encourage them to build up the immune system by having a balanced diet, getting rest, ensure that they get to bed on time, you know, exercise regularly. This would help keep the immune system robust. So remember, with everything going on, with all the confusion and frustration, the game of life is like a football. You have to tackle your problems, block fears, and score your points when you get the opportunity. Thank you for listening, and now Ms. Dean will continue sharing more information with you.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you, Ms. Foy, for that introduction. I hope everyone is well.
You're welcome.
We must, in moving forward, we must be aware of our children's mental health and be very sensitive towards taking good care of them in that particular instance. Most children will manage well with the support of as Ms. Foy had indicated before, with the support of a parent or both parents who shows and reflects to them proper behaviors during times of stress. Yeah? And sometimes there's parents and caregivers who are experiencing stress for themselves, but yet still are able to keep it in check and not have the children fully feel the effects of that stress. So even if showing signs of some anxiety or concerns, such as difficulty in sleeping and concentrating, we can look out for those signs. Some children, however, may have risk factors for more intense reaction, including severe anxiety, depression, and suicidal behavior. Risk factors can include pre-existing mental health problems prior to traumatic experiences or abuse. For our cases here in the BVI and usually throughout the Caribbean basin, it's situations of experiencing storms. Our last and most impactful storms were about 3 years ago, and those were Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and some children are still having issues processing through those situations. We also have to take the time to acknowledge and be very aware of things like cyberbullying. Now that the children are going back to school, and most of the children who are in the BVI, and some throughout the world, in fact, are going back to school online. You know, before time, cyberbullying was a concern, but right now we really need to pay very much attention to the signs and probably even listening in on some of the conversations and the interactions that our children are having while on the worldwide net. Another thing that we want for teachers to pay priority to, and parents, is to look out for the mood that the child has. If you're noticing that they're starting to look sad and withdraw, they're probably not eating as much as they used to, those are signs for concern, and they should be watched out for. Ms. Foy, next slide, thanks. Great. Parents and caregivers should contact a mental health professional if the child exhibits significant changes in the behavior or any of the following symptoms for more than 2 weeks. As I mentioned before, a couple of the behaviors to look out for. You can also see signs of regression. Further in the slide, we have broken it down in accordance with age range, but in general matters, you would see, as I mentioned before, probably interruptions in sleep. For younger children, you may see bedwetting. You can see signs of regression, whereas they used to be able to be more independent, and now they're clinging, or they're not as certain and confident as they were prior to the situation. For preschoolers, they may start or revert back to some sucking, bedwetting, climbing into bed with parents, co-sleeping, sleep disturbance with nightmares, monsters, these sorts of things that they will start to manifest for them. For elementary school children, the irritability, siblings, even towards you as the parent or the caregiver when you're speaking to them. They may want to avoid being on the camera for the online school. Sometimes they're not comfortable with that either. They having issues with concentrating and sitting down in one area to facilitate the online learning. And sometimes they even withdraw. They spend a little more time in their room on a particular corner, or doing a particular activity like playing a video game, or even not even taking calls or WhatsApps from their friends. For adolescents now, we have to remember adolescents have a twofold concern at this time. One, they're dealing with themselves and processing not being able to speak with their peers, not being able to go out like they like, not being able to socialize as is natural and accustomed for that particular age. They're also being required to, if the parent has to leave the home for work, such as an essential worker, they're also being required to stay at home and not only do their work and concentrate on their schoolwork, but also to help the younger siblings in terms of discipline and being an authoritative figure at the home while the parent is not there. So you may find that they themselves need their time away. They need their time to step away. They need their time to be a little more free. And during these times, it's probably best to offer just a little more freedom with the rules when it comes to dealing with the adolescents. Next slide, Ms. Foy, please. To assist in reducing the stress, you can establish clear rules and boundaries. As Ms. Foy mentioned earlier, drawing up a schedule as to the times things are happening, what's happening when, who is doing what, always assists children in knowing, to give them some sort of sense of security as to what the future will hold for them and something that they can concentrate on. Be consistent and set realistic consequences and follow through. In parenting today, we often, for me, this is from my perspective, it is actually the first time that parents are actually having two parents for a long time. Because prior to COVID, we were able to pack the children's schedules so full of different outside activities. We have church, we have football, all different, different social activities. But now we're actually having to spend time with them and discipline them and correct the malbehaviors and maladaptive behaviors that they've learned when they're out and being by themselves. So we also have to be able to say, this is the line. If you draw this line, this is the consequence. And we have to be willing to be strong enough as parents. I know when we see our children reacting or feeling sad or crying or having an outburst, sometimes our heart melts. But that's a time when we really need to stand firm and bring our point across for them to know, because they will test the limits, for them to know this is not tolerated, and if you do this, this is what's going to happen. We also need to promote a sense of independence, especially with the online schooling being which may be a temporary thing. We have to remind them and allow them to maintain some sort of independence for when they do return back to school. If they are accustomed of brushing their teeth, of making their own snack, of cooking or doing anything for themselves or the family, it should be maintained during these times while they're at home, just so that when they do go back out, there's no problem with a transition when they get back to school. Guide them through unpleasant experiences. For most, even for us adults, as some of us are working from home and having forums such as this to express and to interact and communicate, it's sometimes very uncomfortable, yeah? But we still have to engage. We still have to find the courage and muster the courage to be able to participate. And some children are shy. Some children are just reluctant and don't want to participate. But for future and to encourage them in building and developing their independence, we need to allow them to go through and have the experience. After having their unpleasant experience, right, we can discuss with them how they felt. We can hear from them what their perspective was. It also, by allowing them to go through the experience, it also allows them to self-regulate their emotions and understand that they are in control and can soothe themselves and rely on themselves in a difficult situation. Do not look for perfection. As parents, we have to remember that children are new to the game of life. It is their first time here. We as parents have had several years experience. We know if you do X, Y is going to be a consequence, yeah? And we have our own set ways of washing the dishes, sweeping the floors, of doing whatever chores or other activities throughout the house that they may be more involved in now that they're home a little more. But we have to remember, the point is not that it's done perfectly, but the point is that it's getting done and they're learning to do it. So we must encourage them, because over time, perfection will come, and it's not even perfection because nobody does anything perfect. Perfection is an illusion. It's that they get to learn the skill and they do it well and better and improve each time. And we must reward them for these efforts, especially our teenagers, because if they're giving, and they're not seeing anything coming back or saying, you know, I really appreciate your effort, you're really helping me out, we're going to find that they're going to be less willing to participate and less willing to act as that extra support or that extra help that you need at the time during these difficult situations. Do not model anxiety. Try your best, even though in these uncertain times, with us not having information, with us getting bits of information, with the information, there are rumors, and rumors fly faster than the actual facts. We must try our best not to model anxiety. We must try not to be too irritable. We must try to keep our own emotions in check, because the children are looking at us from kindergarten to high school as to how to process and how to react to these situations. And if we're modeling anxiety, if we're modeling depression, if we're modeling aggression, that is how they're going to present. And whether we want to believe it or not, if they see you react that way to them, they're going to think it's okay for them to react that way to you. So now you're putting yourself in a very uncomfortable situation and causing some tension within the relationship between you and the child. Ignore negative behavior and remain neutral in your response. Now, when you say ignore negative behavior, we're not thinking that if they're doing something completely inappropriate, you're not going to correct them. No. What we're saying here is you're going to allow them the moment, you let them know this is not appropriate, let them express their feelings, and then we're going to, because if we don't allow them to express their feelings and we pay attention too much to the negative behavior, we're going to encourage the negative behavior. Because for children, as long as they're getting your attention, no matter whether it be good or bad, their goal is to get your attention. And so if misbehaving is what has to be done to get your attention, especially since parents are concerned with having to leave them home alone or working from home and not paying them as much attention while they're working, they're going to do things to just push the envelope that little bit further, but we must be able to remain calm. We must remember that and acknowledge and let them know, I see you. We must take the time to listen to them, so let them know that I hear you, and then you will give them a particular time or however you choose to provide a solution to their situation. Children will listen. As long as you're taking the time to meet them on their level, they will respond appropriately. Have them share and express their feelings through poetry, storytelling, drawing, etc. Take, for instance, a child has had a very difficult day while online. They may not have been able to express themselves fully during the class, or some situation happens. Sometimes persons are not necessarily verbal, and it's best that they can express themselves through writing something down or through a pictorial depiction of how they feel. We could also take the time to use a sort of a mood chart where you can show them or allow them to express how angry or how sad or whatever the degree of the emotion that they're feeling. I was listening to a webinar the other day, and for one of the examples, the person was saying, well, that particular child prefers bacon. So in using the cooking stages of bacon, the child is able to express his feelings in a way that he understands, and now the parent is able to understand. So if the bacon is, not yet crispy, but it's just perfect, he's fine. If the bacon is getting to get a little crunchy and hard, it's showing that he's evolving into getting a little more upset. I'm getting crunchy here. Or if it's really burnt, then he can say, well, my bacon is just burnt right now. And so we can therefore understand that he cannot deal with this particular situation at this point. He probably needs a break. He needs time to step away, time to regulate his emotions. So we need to provide them with tools that they can use in turn to express themselves appropriately. So it's not that they don't just get the blow off, or they know that later mommy or daddy will sit down with them and they'll have a discussion, and they'll have an opportunity to say how they feel or express how they feel. It is very important to catch them being and doing good. Say thank you, Oh, that was so lovely that you helped mommy today. I appreciated you grating the garlic, you chopping up the onions, you washing the dishes. Catch them doing good. I thank you so much for looking after your siblings. I really appreciated when you did this, X, Y, and Z. it builds confidence in them. It lets them see, and you get to praise the positive behavior, and more than likely they're going to reflect and express that positive behavior more often than the negative. Appreciate their efforts and say thank you, as I mentioned before. Be proud of their efforts and reward them for it. Whatever they do, appreciate what they do, because what they do is what they can do at the time. Sometimes because we're adults, we forget that children are still learning and that their skills are developing. So we need to encourage them in the development of their skills. Okay? And through rewards, it could be an extra 5 minutes of watching their favorite program, or playing their favorite game, or listening to their favorite song. We just need to reward them for the efforts that they're making. Thank you, Ms. Foy. The next slide. Taking care of your mental health during COVID-19. It is very important that we use our virtual means of keeping in touch with our friends, families, and even our co-workers. For children, it is recommended that you probably arrange virtual play dates, games of such like Uno. We don't really play Battleship or anything, but games that the other person may have, and you can sit down on the other end and play your hand, could also still give the sense of camaraderie, still give the sense of social interaction, still give the sense and have the exchange of humor, and you're able to express and share quality time with others. Maintain a healthy lifestyle. Within your schedule, and speaking from experience, I understand, it can be very difficult, but at least carve out, because even for them, they still have to have some sense of physical activity. We do have some free periods between the hours of 5 a.m. and 12 noon to be outside. You can take them for a walk in the yard, let them see the flora and fauna, discuss what the flora and fauna is. When they come back in, let them express what they saw, how it felt, if they touched anything, if they're outside, let them take their slippers or their shoes off, let them feel the ground, let them feel the earth underneath their feet. Yeah? If you can't allow them to go outside at all, engage them. YouTube has several different facilitators of children activities, physical activities. You could use those means and measures to encourage, and do it with them. It's all well and good you say, oh, go run, or go play, or go watch that video. But if you sit with them, it encourages them even more. And it gives them to say that it's not them doing it alone, and it's something that we as a family are doing together. We encourage you to stay positive. As rough as things are, as bad as things are, some families are facing unemployment. Some families are now facing one income, whereas they used to have two. Some families are juggling, work schedules and different stresses that we have at this point in time that we didn't have before. But it's always good to stay positive. Always look to when things get better. And so there is a system where you can have them, if you find that they're struggling with that, you have them draw things how it was before the COVID, how things are now during the COVID, and how they see things after the COVID. So it allows them to process how they want things to get better, how they know things can get better. Tell a story of what they expect to happen, what they expect school to be like. Show them too what other schools are experiencing. That way they know that it's not them alone. They know that it's not them alone who are making the sacrifices. There are a few YouTube videos of how schools are looking around the world, how they separate the children, how the children are having to wear the mask, and what measures they're taking, so that when they are reintroduced back into the schools, they're familiar and they know, it's not just us, and they're not personalizing the situation. and they know to stay positive and it's going to be okay. Stay informed. It is very important during this time to be informed as to what's happening, especially in your local region. However, we can overindulge on the information, and most of the information at this time tends to be negative. What you can do is to research age-appropriate information for the children. That way they know and they are able to understand at their level. I know I'm referencing YouTube, but there are several channels that offer such activities. You just type in whatever you want to know, whether it's washing hands, whether it's how school is going to be when they return. Also, in the terms of staying informed, when they are doing the presentation, like here the government every once in a while, they give us an update. Allow the children to sit in and hear the update so that they know that when you say something, it's not just that you're talking from an authority, that this is how we're going to have this. They're understanding that, oh, everybody has to do this. So, and they will better cooperate and have more patience with the situation as well. Seek support. It really does take a village to raise a child. It's not, especially in these times, it's not just the immediate family and the immediate home. If you're finding difficulties with your child coping, it is also good to make contact with your local mental health facility, or even your doctor, whomever you most feel comfortable with, whoever the child feels comfortable with, whether it's the pediatrician or whoever they can find good counsel in. Yeah? And seek support. Next slide, please, Ms. Foy. Great. So in terms of schooling, here in the BVI, we're not yet returning back to the classroom. So we must be able to find a good home and work balance. As Ms. Foy mentioned before, establish a structured schedule and it is probably best to maintain your regular weekly schedule before COVID-19. You know, if it's 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, you get them up at 6. They brush their teeth, they go through the breakfast, they maintain that schedule. Sometimes you may have to write it down and post it in a place that they can see in their rooms. You can also do it in block areas, like from this time to this time, you have to go to school. So they understand what's happening and when it's happening. And they're more likely to be compliant with whatever your requests are because they expect that this is what's going to happen. We recommend that you zone your homes and have an established area for school or work area. Right now, most persons are either working from home, part-time, full-time, as well as the students are going to school. So we're in a shared area. So it's best, and it's best to have them, just like at school, they have their desk. So we need to have their area. It's either you're going to have an area for them if your house lends to it, for them being in their room, they have a desk and something set up, or they come to the dining table and they have their section. They must keep their things in their area and work within their area, just like at school. Yeah. Also, this goes back to a little more in terms of maintaining a regular schedule. Still pack their snack. Still pack their snack. Still try to maintain that, especially when they're working, that they have that particular break, their first break or their lunch break, whatever breaks during their work day, still maintain that for them as well. Because you'll get better compliance. If it's nap time, or if you find that they do need the nap, because sitting down and looking at a computer gets tiring. Trying to concentrate, you fall asleep, you're nodding, it's not ideal. but they still need a break to be able to maintain that their fortitude through the activity. Be polite to your co-workers. Now that we're at home and we're sharing facilities with our kids, we have to remember, just like when we're on the job, we need to be polite to our co-workers. Yes, in instances like we have forums such as Zoom meetings and other e-forums, and we've seen many hilarious examples on YouTube and CNN where the executive is giving this grand presentation and then the door opens and the child rushes in. Let's not panic. Everybody knows you're working from home. Everybody has that expectation. You yourself have to know that there are going to be times when they're going to come, mommy or daddy, I need this. Explain to them, either before you go on, let them know that during this time, daddy and mommy are working. I'm going to give you this activity. I want you to be in charge of this. So that way they are preoccupied. If they do come and interrupt, let's not lash out at them or, say, excuse me, thank you. You cuddle them just a little bit, reassure them. They might be, because they feel that they're your co-worker, they might be offering something. You say, that's a good idea. They feel good in themselves, and then they run off, and you say, well, why don't you go back and do? And then they run off and continue what they have to do. But don't lash out at them or chastise them for what they would be seen as being helpful. Yeah? We already went through the mood chart. We went through the breaks and get them having exercise. They still have to have some sort of physical exercise, so PE. Remember that learning takes many forms. During this period, a lot of parents are going to be concerned as to whether their child is falling behind. It's not your child alone. Everybody is having the challenge. Everybody's experiencing it. Granted, there's some persons who are a little more challenged and have different situations and learning abilities than others. And let's hope that there are facilities in place to assist with that, yeah? But learning takes different forms. In cooking, in washing clothes, in cleaning the house, these are different skills that the children are learning and being embedded into them that will foster independence. So don't just be on them. Academics is not 100%. There are other skills that need to be learned. Yes, you would like them to be a doctor, but then a plumber makes $100 an hour. So, we should still encourage them to develop their skills and vocation. We may also have to phase online learning. For some children, they are a little scared of being on the video, and they don't want to be on the video all the time. They don't like the teacher looking at them. Different reasons. You may have to do like a little, tell them, okay, well, you do the first 10 minutes of it with the video on, and then for the rest, for 15 minutes, we'll turn the video off, and you'll just listen to the teacher. We have to be able to work with them and then you build that up over time, okay? That way, eventually, they will just be able to sit down and go through the whole lesson with the video on if necessary. Do not do things around the house yourself because it's easier for you. Being at home with the children, or we will have a tendency as an adult, it's going to be quicker, it's going to be faster, I can get through this without any rush. But no, the children have to learn. And they're learning new skills. They're sometimes for the first time being at home and seeing you doing skills, and they need to learn. How can they get better or improve unless you tell them, well, they have to do this, and let's see how you do, and you reward them, or you give appropriate critique as to this, I like how you did this, but next time, let's just do this a little tighter, or whatever explanation you want to give them. Yeah, let it always be positive. and let them do that for themselves. Again, fostering independence, because if and when they do go back to school, we're not going to be there with them. Finally, for this side, enjoy your family. Enjoy the family time. Cook, play games, do dance parties, engage in self-care. Take time to have a pedicure moment where everybody's sitting down and they're all doing different nail polishes. If it's boys, you're playing a game, you know, you're cutting hair together, daddy's cutting everybody's hair together. Do something that encourages self-care and that they're taking time for themselves. Thank you, Ms. Foy. Next slide. All right, we're about to wrap up. At points that we'd appreciate that you take away. Practice safety protocols at home. When you're going out, wear your mask. Let them wear their mask. That way they get conditioned and understand that when they go out and when they get back to school, this is what the protocol is. Wash your hands frequently. Now, in washing our hands frequently, we must also be aware that that can also be, you have to monitor them with that, because that may also be a sign of anxiety or nervousness if they're doing it too frequently. So we have to use these things to also monitor the children. Let them know why we're washing our hands. Explain to them on their level about germs and the spreading of germs and not wanting to spread germs and making other persons sick. We also want to practice safe distancing. When we carry them out to even the grocery store or whatever errands that they're accompanying us with, we still want them to know, so okay, so because we're practicing safe distancing, we're going to stand right here. That way it allows the person in front of us to have space, and it allows the person behind us to have space, so that they understand when they go back to school, this is what's going to happen. We also would like to keep the idea of returning to school in the conversation. It is very important, because being at home for such a long time, our kids have been out of school since March, at least for those in the BVI, and it's very important that we keep the conversation of school at the forefront. You know, sometimes you may even have to do a little school drive-by, you know, while you're out running your errands. Just let them know that, you know, oh, look at school, you know, you remember that? What time do you get up? If you have the ability and can afford the ability to take, after you've done the morning routine, take and do a drive-by and say, yeah, don't worry, just know we're going back, right? Don't worry, just know it's still there. See, nobody else is at school, because sometimes children feel that parents are telling them something that's not applying to everybody else. So that way they say, oh, well, wow, nobody else is there. So, and this is what really has to be done. Again, educate children with age-appropriate information on COVID-19. There are many things available. You just have to research it for their particular age range. Give children time to adjust. We ourselves, every week is a different thing. First, when it started out, it's only wear mask if you're feeling sick. Now it's everybody wear masks. So you have to give the children a little time to adjust. We ourselves need time to adjust, so we have to be able to expect that from the children as well. Seek help for stress indicators lasting for more than 4 weeks. If you're noticing that these situations, like they're not sleeping, they're restless, their lack of concentration is continuing, even their moods are not what you're accustomed to, and it's just not them, you have to be able to say, well, you know something, probably we need to speak to somebody. You don't necessarily have to carry them, but you yourself can consult with your doctor, the pediatrician, anyone at community mental health or one of the clinics to get some advice on the situation. And sometimes getting a second opinion from your healthcare provider is the best thing. For us, there are stigmas attached to mental health and seeking help from a mental health facility. And sometimes our primary caregiver or the pediatrician might be a little more comfortable person for us to be able to talk to. But feel free to find anyone who can assist you with these questions that you may have. Yeah, I think, Ms. Foy, that's it. Yeah, we just have a few additional resources for coping with stress during infectious diseases, about washing your hands, etc.
Thank you very much, Ms. Green and Mrs. Foy. I know that this is a really difficult time for children and their parents, and so I think this presentation is really useful and relevant. And if it's okay with you, perhaps we could share it with the participants later. And there will also be a recording available that we can send to them. We have just a little bit of time left, so I thought we could open it up for any questions or comments for our presenters. All of you are automatically muted, but if you click the raise hand button, then I can unmute your microphone and you can speak to the group. So any questions or comments, I'm sure also we have a lot of parents with us or people who work with children, so we'd be happy to hear any of your experiences or concerns. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone have a question or I wonder what some of your what do you think some of your challenges for children going back to school would be? Someone care to answer that? Or what are some of your challenges as an adult, as a parent, or as a teacher with the online schooling? Don't know.
It looks like we have some questions, Ms. Foy. I see some hands going up.
Oh, you do? Here, I'm trying to. Amy's screen is frozen. Make it. Wait 1 second. If I find Amy.
Hello?
Wait, hang on.
Hello?
Wait, Amy's screen is frozen, so I'm trying to figure out how to make her a presenter. 1 second. Okay, I think Judy wanted. I can't see the participants. That's the thing.
Can you hear me? Because I've been unmuted.
Yes, I can hear you. Good. Whoever unmuted her, thank you.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Hi. Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. So I didn't really have a question so much. I just wanted to share. I have a 14-year-old at home who has ADHD, And so the challenge has been that not necessarily getting the support that he would normally get at school, and also trying to carry on working and try to plug the gap and provide more support to him. And I'm sure there's many other parents in the same position. Also, getting teenagers out of bed in the morning is pretty challenging. And, you know, it's a balancing act of trying to give them more independence, you know, let them manage themselves. But I find I often have to step in. There's a lot of background noise. I'm not sure if you can hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I am hearing you. I'm not sure where the background noises are coming from, but yeah, so it's a challenge and having your 14-year-old stay on task, huh?
It is.
And you working at the same time.
Yeah, we managed to get through the last semester, and it wasn't too ugly at the end. And I'm not really making a comment to ask for ideas, because I think, you know, having been trying to work out the best for Nikki for a long time now, both in school and out of school. You know, we have all the tools. It's just making them work all the time successfully. Personally, I can't wait for them to go back to school, and I'm hoping that won't be in the distant future, because I think it's really important for them. I think, you know, teenagers particularly, they need the interaction, and unfortunately they're at the age where, you know, a play date really is gaming for a lot of them, and that's what's happening a lot of the time. So we try to offer different ideas, but it's not always attractive. And I might have to stop talking in a minute because somebody's coming back into the room. Privacy is also an issue. Oh, no.
I think we also had Dr. Samuel had her hand up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to really congratulate Brenda and Mara on doing a great job. It is a lot of information. I think it's a challenging area, and because, you know, there's no one answer that fits everyone, as you heard from the questions, the comment just now. So it is a situation, I think, where parents, you know, have to figure out what works for them. I have an 11-year-old son who's a preteen, and it has been a challenge even for me, you know, trying to make the whole thing work. And my biggest area of concern really is parents, you know, as Mara said, parents are now having to parent, but they're also having to sometimes survive and make choices between working and parenting and working and being at home. And I think that's a reality in BVI that we need to talk some more about and bring to the forefront, because, you know, I think that is one of my greatest concerns. So, but great job, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb.
And we also have Oh, I'm sorry. We also have a comment from Althea. I'm going to unmute your mic right now.
Good afternoon, all. Great job again, Mara and Mrs. Foy. Lots of interesting information. What really stuck with me, though, is when Mara mentioned being polite to your coworkers. You know, we have zoned and we try zoning and we allow them to use the dining table. But then sometimes my difficulty was not recognizing that my dining table is now a classroom. And the way they keep the dining table, I had a bit of difficulty in adjusting. So I'm very happy that Mara mentioned that because I am now open to recognizing that if they have to work from home, do that homeschooling, they need somewhere to work. And yes, they did use the dining table, but my goodness, sometimes it wasn't look like a dining table. It looked too much like a classroom. I was like losing my dining table. But I'm happy Mara mentioned that. So now I think I have to try to be more open to seeing the books there even after school hours, because they may have something to do. And my children are older, 15 and 13, so they had left them fairly well, but my child was having to, rush home and make sure that they're actually doing their assignments because, they will take their time. And somebody said, Mom, it's due till 12 midnight. But I'm saying, I had no idea what's going to happen with the lights and everything. So try and do it now. So that was a struggle for me because they wanted it at their own pace. But then marriage reminded me children try out stuff and they don't think like we adults. We always like, okay, let me do it now because it might go off or light may go off. And for them, it's okay. It's due to 12 midnight, so I can do it at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So that was a challenge for me, getting to do things at my time or trying to become the teacher. And they would like tell me, Mommy, teacher say can come tomorrow, so don't stress. So I wasn't getting more stressed with their work than them sometimes. So I have now realized I have to really pull back and work with them at their level and not be do it the way I would like to have it done. So great job, guys. Really, really great job.
Thanks, Ms. Renee. I'd just like to say, with regards to your dining room table, in the schedule that they have for their day, probably cleanup could also be added to that. That, if once you know what time their classes stop or finish, you have them put away at, X time. That way you can see your dining table. It can be used for what it's supposed to be used for, and it wouldn't be so difficult as a parent to see the clutter on the table.
I don't see any other hands up at the moment. Any last questions before we close? Okay. We do have a comment from Simone. I'm going to unmute you right now.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you. I am just commenting, perhaps I missed it earlier, but I'd like to know if there are any provisions being put in place for children with special needs. I heard another parent mention her son with ADHD, but I'm also concerned about the children who were benefiting from programs such as speech therapy or various other therapies from the Autism Center, things like that. Will these be made available in some way for us parents who are also trying to support these additional needs these children will have during the next school year? There's a great concern that without these services, they can start regressing in a lot of ways. There's also we're also dealing with the everyday challenge of just getting them to sit still and attend the classroom online, but there are these other therapies that they require in order to learn in the way that they need to. So I'm just wondering if there's anything being put in place for that.
I'm not sure if Ms. Foy wanted to take that concern, but I do know, I'm not privy to the details, but I do know that the Minister of Education in his last address for the BVI, he did allude that they are looking into assistance for children with special needs and helping them a little more. I do believe that apart from just the public service, you can still get speech therapy and other therapies through private offices, doctors' offices, and services. So unfortunately, the reality of that may be that there's an extra expense to the parents. I'm not sure how far NHI covers when you go to the particular services through a private practice, but for right now, I'm just making an educated guess. It would be probably best to seek services privately, get a referral from your doctor, and that way NHI will be more likely to cover that. But I guess we just have to stay tuned. Probably Dr. Samuel might be able to speak more on that.
Oh, was I able to unmute myself?
So some of the services are available privately, yes, and they're covered by NHI, yes. And what you said about the minutes and his provisions, that's correct. I understand that they're looking into providing more support, and that was something that he spoke about extensively. So other than that, I don't have any other information.
Yes, I don't have any information on that either. We just have to go with the education department. They said they're working on something, and hopefully they will have something on stream for this school year. We hope.
Thank you very much for the questions, everyone. I'm not seeing any more hands up, and it's approaching 5:30, so I think this might be a good place for us to stop. I want to thank again our presenters, Ms. Foy and Ms. Dean, for an excellent presentation. We hope to be able to share the recording of this session with you soon, and also with their permission, the PowerPoint. Thank you again for being here, and we hope that you'll join us for more webinars in this series. And a friendly reminder that if you're able to, it would greatly help us if you can fill out the brief evaluation that you're going to receive right after this session ends. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you. Everyone have a great evening and a good online session.